Hey guys, welcome to another lesson. This week we're going to be learning about JavaScript, and I hope you've watched that introduction video on what JavaScript is, what it's used for, and now we can start learning some of the concepts. So I'm going to share my screen right here. Alright, so this is something that I did in class, and you don't need to have this. Well, you should have this in your own notes. It doesn't have to be HTML, but this is stuff that you need to know. You need to know some of these are just some JavaScript concepts that are very, you're going to use it all the time in JavaScript. So this is stuff you just need to know. Let me go ahead and explain some of these. So a variable. A variable is just a way to store a value. So what that means is, let's say that you have something on your page that can change, or something in your program that can be one thing or it could be another thing, and you could maybe change it. You don't know what it is maybe, or maybe you do know what it is and you want to be able to use it. That you would use a variable for. A variable. So here's an example of a variable right here. So let me show you this website that I built. So let's start over. Let's go with easy. So here it's asking me, guess the number between 1 and 10. Okay. So let's play. What's your first guess? Let's do 5. Lower. Okay. 3. Lower. All right. Maybe 1. Higher. Okay, so I think we figured it out. 2. That's it. All right, so my page is not a human, but how does my page know if I got it right or not? And how does my page know what number to pick? Look, I'll show you if I play again. All right, it's easy. Let's play again, and let's try 2. Oh, I got it again. Now you're gonna think that the answer is always gonna be 2. So let me do it one more time. 2. Lower. Okay, so this time it's not 2. So that's an example of a variable. The random number that I'm trying to guess changes. It's not always 2. And even if it was 2, it would still be a variable because I'm storing the value of 2. Or you can see my guesses here. Okay, so let's go over here, and so that's what a variable is, and let me show you what that looks like. Now, don't check me on this code. I'm not sure if this works. Actually, let's check if this works. Random number. So I'm going to alert. Okay, hold on. I have to refresh. Let me get this HTML here. All right, and real quick, let's say UL size pixels. All right, now I'm not sure if that random number code worked, but let's try it. So I'm going to create a variable, and the name of this variable, for me, is whatever you want to call it. I'm going to call it random number. Now, something to note is that in CSS, when we have 2 words, we connect them. For example, background image. In CSS, we connect them with a dash. This is called kebab case. Just like this, kebab case. That's the name of this. Now in JavaScript, when we have 2 words, we don't use spaces. We use the first letter is lowercase and the second is uppercase. The first letter of the second word is going to be uppercase, and that's called camel case. Okay, so back to what we're doing. So this is my variable I created. So I created a variable called random number, and now let's define this variable, meaning let's set it equal to something. So I need to tell the computer what this random number variable is going to hold, what value it will hold. So let's call this random number equals, and this is a function I'm going to use, a method. So math.random, and then let's multiply that by 100. And now let's see what this is. So here's a function that's built into JavaScript that you can use to tell yourself something. And so I'm going to use alert, and I want to alert the random number. Okay. So it's going to tell me my random number is this. All right. So this is my random number here, 74.2, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I need to round that. I believe I could do that using math.round. Okay, let's see if that does anything. There we go. So now it gives me a random number and it rounds it to the nearest. So that's what's happening here. This random number is a variable. So watch what happens if I do something else that refreshes the page. Let's see, let me do that and then that. There you go. So now I get another random number. So this is a variable and it doesn't always have to change, but I'm storing this value in something called random number. And later I'm telling my page to alert this, whatever I named it, alert the random number. So alert means it just pops up and tells me what this is. All right, now it can get really annoying if every time I make a change, I get this alert with a random number. So what I can do, instead of calling this function here, this alert function, every single time the page refreshes, because on CodePen it does it every time you make a few changes, I can put this in a function. So check this out. Here, let me just show you as an example. If I do something, then it just alerts me again. And I don't want that all the time. So I'm going to comment this out for now using command / there. Now this function is not going to run. And if you don't know how to do that, just type / space in front of it. That's how you comment out in JavaScript. Okay, so all right, hold on. Let me just double check that I'm recording. Yeah, I am. Great. Have to do that every time. Okay, so variable is right here. This is a variable, and the way that you declare a variable is using var. In this case, since we're learning, we'll use var, and then the name of the variable. And then later, when you're ready, you can set the variable equal to a value. All right, so let me show you how to put this in a function so that it's not just doing it whenever. And let's call this function random number. Let's see. I'm just going to say show number. Show number. All right, so that's going to be the name of my function, but to tell the computer that this is going to be a function, I need to type function space show number. And then I will need open and close parentheses. There we go. So function show number. Now I just declared a function. So in order to define this function, what I will do is I will make these curly braces that we see in CSS and open them up, and I will put this code inside of here. So let's cut that and paste it there. All right, so my function show number is now whenever I call this function, it's going to do this. So notice it's not alerting me anymore. Watch what happens if I call this function. The way to call the function is to just type it by itself with parentheses. So show number. There, now I get the alert. Okay, so I don't want it to happen every time I make a change, so I'm going to not call this function. All right, so that's how you write a function. So far, we've learned how to declare a variable. You just write var and the name of your variable, and you set it equal to something. And we've learned how to declare a function. You just write function and the name of your function with parentheses, and then to set it equal to something, you make open curly braces and put some code inside. And whatever code is inside of here is what's going to run. So the cool thing about functions is functions, if you look at Scratch, so let's go to Scratch here real quick. Let's see here. If you look at Scratch, I can tell you exactly what a function is because we've been using them. So let's go here and let's just choose a random one here, fishing. Let's see if these people, oh, that looks, all right, maybe something simpler. Here, I'll sign in. All right, so let's find some of my Scratch ideas. My stuff. I could have probably clicked on that folder there. Let's go with Avery can walk. Let's see if I have any functions here. All right, I do. So my blocks, all of these blocks that I created are functions. Okay, so let's see, nothing here. So let's go to Avery. Avery has this stuff. All right, so here are the functions I have for Avery: dance, jump, roll, take a step, walk. So when I create a function, first I need to give it a name, and then I need to define it. So to define the function here, for example, take a step is going to be repeat this twice. Here, let's find a simpler one. Here we go, jump. So jump is going to repeat this 10 times, change y by 10. So that just means go up. Here, I'll show you. Jump. I'm going to call the function jump. So jump, I'm going to call it, and I can call it in Scratch by clicking on it. All right, Avery's not even on screen. There we go. Let's get this guy off. All right, I'm going to call this function by clicking on it. So the cool thing about functions is you can put as much code as you want. Look at some of these functions here. Right here, roll. If I click on it, Avery does something silly. She rolls. If I click dance, okay, so Avery is not the best dancer, but it's something. All right, that's gonna happen 5 times it looks like, and I don't want that to happen, so I'm gonna press stop. Okay, let's get Avery back. So these are all functions, and this is a small function here. So a function could be as small or as long or as big as you want it to be. And this right here is a small function. It only has one thing of code in it, but it's very useful to be able to capture it inside of this show number value or this show number name, the function, because I don't want it to happen every time the page refreshes. I only want it to happen when I call it, but I do want it to be available to me. So that's why I would define a function here. So we've defined a variable, setting a name equal to something. All right, in this case, this is a number. And we've defined a function setting a name equal to some code, an action, something we want it to do. All right, so now let's take a look at strings, numbers, and one more thing I should add real quick. Booleans. All right, so strings, numbers, and Booleans. These are the main, I guess you would say, the three values, the three types of data that a variable can hold. So strings are pretty easy, numbers are pretty easy, and Booleans are pretty easy. It's all easy. You just need to know what it means. So let me show you what a string is. And so I'm going to type / space to comment this out because I don't want any code to run. But a string is a set of characters. So a string is, well, that's what it is. I'll show you an example. So if I have a variable called my string, you can name it anything you want. My string, I'm going to set it equal to, here, I'll give it a more creative name. Let's say I have a variable called name. So let's say my name is Mr. Clark. Okay, so this right here, this variable, now once again I need to name it a variable, var name. There, now you have the variable is yellow and name is blue. That's good. So var name equals Mr. Clark. So I'm telling the computer that there is something called a name and the name equals Mr. Clark. All right, so this right here is a string. Because this is in quotation marks, this is a set of characters. So the computer knows that I can't do math with this. It's not necessarily true or false. Well, let's not say that. But this is a string right here. It's inside quotation marks. It's something, whatever I type in there, that's what it is. The computer doesn't need to know how to use it. All right, so next we have let's have a number. Let's say var age. So I'm setting this variable equal to a number now. Now, if I do this here, if I do this, 25, then the computer has no idea that this is a number. The computer just knows that when I ask for age, it's going to print this, 25. But if I ask the computer to add 1 to this, it's not going to do what I want it to do because it doesn't know this is a number. It doesn't know it can do math with it. So to tell the computer this is a number, I just don't use the parentheses. And now my age is equal to a number. Now, once again, if I have the if I have the quotation marks, then it's a string. And a string is basically this right here, Mr. Clark and 25. The computer doesn't know the difference as far as what type of data this is. So to make it a number, something I can work with, I just type the number. Okay, now let's have one more variable where I talk about Booleans. Var, let's say, is married. Okay, so this is a variable. This can be one of two answers, right? It can't be multiple answers like age. Age could be anywhere from 0 to like 100 or even more sometimes. Name could be literally anything you decide to name something. But is married is either true or it's not true, right? There's no in between, because if you're not married, you're not married. And if you're married, you're married. So is married is a Boolean. A Boolean can either be true or false. So that's what a Boolean is. A Boolean is either true or false. And so let's say for this variable, is married, for me, false. I'm not. Okay. So these are three variables, and they are the three different data types. You can have a string, you can have a number, and you can have a Boolean, true or false. Now let's do another Boolean just to show you. Let's see. Let's say var, and this doesn't have to start with is. I'll do that. Var is smart, and I would say that's equal to true. So if you ask about Mr. Clark, he's 25, is married, no, and he's true. All right, now let me show you why I would use a number here instead of a string, 25 instead of the string 25. Now, this does exist, a string of 25, but it just doesn't tell the computer it's a number. So I want to use a number here. Let me show you why. Let's say I want to have a function called birthday. So let's name a function birthday. All right. Is that one word? Yeah. I mean, that's two words, I believe. Happy birthday. Okay, let's just make it one word. There. Okay, so this function is called birthday, and I give it my parentheses here, and now I'm going to define it. So the parentheses tells it not only, first you tell it it's a function using this, and then these parentheses complete the statement that it's a function, basically. Functions end in parentheses when you declare them. So inside of these curly braces, I can write all the code I want. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take age, and let's say I want to, on my birthday, let's set age equal to, oh, I don't need to type set, sorry. Age, since I already declared this variable, I can use it now. Age equals 26 on my birthday. All right, and let's call this function here. Let's go up here to our alert, and let's change this here to age. So I want it to alert my age. So let's call this function by saying show number. That's what we named our function earlier. All right. So this is my age, okay? Now let's call the function birthday ahead of this. So birthday is going to set my age equal to 26. So see, it's still 25 right now. So let's say birthday, and now I'm calling that function there. So now you can see age is equal to 26. So let's say I had a birthday, now I'm 26. Now this is something I could do with a number or a string, because I can set age equal to, if I make it a string, platypus. So then it says my age is platypus. All right, that's not true. So here, the reason I have a number here is so that I could do some math with it. So here's a cool thing I can do. Now that I've done this, age is going to equal 25 again because I declared it up here and I have nothing changing it. So let me comment this out real quick and you'll see. Oops. All right, so I commented this out and now it's refreshing and it's going to tell me age is 25. Okay, and to make this more clear, I'm going to say alert a string here. The string is going to say age. Age is, and I'm going to add this here. Age is plus this variable. And now it says age is 25. All right, let me add a space in there. Age is 25. So this string here is a set of characters, and then I'm adding my variable. So whatever age is as the variable is going to be right here. All right, now let's stop alerting this because I don't need it to go off every time. Oops, like that. Okay. So now let me not do that right now. So let's define this function birthday. I don't want it to just change my age to 26 because what happens then when I have another birthday? It's still going to change my age to 26, which is not what birthday should do. So what I want to do actually, and I just commented that out, you can just take off these slashes here. What I want to do actually is, what is a birthday? A birthday is taking your age and adding 1 to it, 1 more year. Okay, so let's just do that. And this is going to look a little weird because if you know anything about math, it's going to look like it doesn't make sense. But this is how variables and JavaScript works, and many programming languages work this way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set age equal to age. So right now age is 25. Age plus 1. So by saying age plus 1, I'm telling my code to add 1 to whatever age is. And the cool thing about this is that this is reusable. Now, every time I use birthday, every time I have a birthday, every time I call it with this right here, and actually let me, instead of having calling two separate functions here, I'm going to take show number. I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to put it inside of here. So what's going to happen is, and if you haven't noticed, I've been ending all of these with semicolons. The semicolon is like our period. In grammar, when you're writing a sentence, you end it with a period. Here in JavaScript, you end each statement with a semicolon. So that basically tells the computer or your browser that you're done with this statement. So once I said age is 25, end that, and then I can go on to other things. So I just took this function here that I already defined up here, show number, which if you look up here, show number, the function show number is alert, age is whatever age is. All right, so now if I call birthday, what it's going to do is it's going to set, when this page refreshes, it's going to set age equal to 25. And then it's going to run this function here when I call it down here. So let's see what that looks like. Now I'm expecting it to say 26. There we go, age is 26. All right, now if I wanted to do this again, I could run this function again, but the problem with doing that again is the page is gonna refresh and it's gonna read this again and set age equal to 25 again, and then it's going to set age to age plus 1, which is 25 plus 1, and then I'll just get 26 again. So instead of doing that, I'm going to repeat this a few times. And this is a little bit more advanced, but it's nothing we haven't seen before. Remember, we just looked at Scratch, where jump, if you just set change Y to 10, she just goes up a little bit, right? But if I repeat it 10 times, for example, she goes up 10 times, all right? And then if I put her back down, negative 10 here, then she repeats this. And if I put this in repeat 5 times, she'll jump 5 times. So that's what we're about to do. I want to have my birthday repeat 5 times. So that's going to add 5 to my age. So I'm going to put this in a loop, a repeat loop. And loops are something else we're going to learn, but it's a little bit advanced for right now. All right, so to do that, I'm going to have, and I'm going to stop calling birthday here because I don't want it to go off every time I press the space. All right, so I'm going to have a loop. This loop is going to be, all right, this is going to look advanced, but just know this is a loop. All right, so this is called a for loop. For I equals 0, while I is less than 5, I plus plus, meaning I plus plus just means increase I each time. All right, I forgot this. All right, you definitely don't need to type this. I just want to show you what will happen. All right, and so let's get this function here that I'm calling and let's put it inside here. And because I want to show you what is, so here's what's going to happen. This right here is a repeat loop. And what it's going to do is it's going to repeat this 5 times. So function, so this function birthday is going to happen 5 times. First, it's going to set age, which age is 25 when the page refreshes. It's going to set age equal to age plus 1, so 25 plus 1. And then it's going to show you the age. Then it's going to repeat. So then it's going to set age, which is now 26, to equal to age 26 plus 1, which will now be 27, and it's going to show you the age. And then it'll keep repeating. So let's just see if this works. Sometimes my code doesn't work. Let's see. All right. Okay, age is 26. Age is 27. Age is 28. Age is 29. Age is 30. So that worked. Great. All right, so what we have here is we have a function, and inside this function we have a variable that we already defined up here, age, and then we have a function down here, and this function is defined up here, show number. Show number is going to alert this string, so this collection of characters, plus my variable. And this plus here doesn't mean add. This plus means put these next to each other when you alert them. So now let me show you what happens if I turn this into a string. I can't do any of that with a string. So you see age 25. So what it's doing now is, okay, remember this number, 251. What it's doing here is, see, my string stays the same, 25, because the computer doesn't know it's a number. So the computer is not doing math. The computer is putting this next to, here, I'll show you. This code right here, here's what it's doing. Oops. Here, let me click this a few times and then undo this code here. All right, so here's what's happening. The computer is taking this string, 25, and it's just adding a 1 to it. So it's not doing math, it's putting the 1 next to it. And so that's why you had 251, 2511, 25111, 25111, all of that. And so that's what happens if I do this with a string. Just like up here where I have a string plus here it was a number. Now it's not a number, now it's a string. So it says age is plus this string, and then here I was adding the string plus a number, which just meant put it next to it. But if I put this back and change it to a number, then my birthday code works perfectly. And let me uncomment this out and I'll show you that. Oh, okay, here's what happened. I still have this as a string. This needs to be a number. And this needs to be age. Age, there. So now I'm getting age from up here to go here, and this is 25 plus 1, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Okay, now the final thing before the end of this lesson, I'm going to talk about arrays. Arrays. So here we see that a variable can be a string, which is just a set of characters organized, and then you have a number right here. So this is a number. I can do math with it. I can do all sorts of things with numbers that I can't do with strings. And finally, a Boolean, is married, false, is married, true. So actually, before I get into the arrays, let me show you how I would use a Boolean in a function. So let's see, let's make a function called function show, let's say show status. And since it's 2 words, I'm going to capitalize the second one. Show status, as in my relationship status. All right, function show status is going to, okay, let's get rid of that there so I don't keep seeing my age increase before it's time. So function show status, I'm going to define it. I want to show whether I'm single or whether I'm married. So function show status alert, and here I'm going to alert this variable is married. Is married. Okay, now watch what happens. Since is married is false, I'm going to call this function show status, so I can do that anywhere. The way I call it is by typing it, show status, and then just typing parentheses. So now what it's going to do is it's going to alert. Okay, so here we have a problem. Is married. Okay, I believe the problem here is that I didn't declare this. Well, that shouldn't work. Let's see. Function show status. Show status. Oh, it's because I'm here. I think it's, don't worry. I know it. I think I know what I'm doing. All right. So let's let's cut that, Command X. Let's call it after I define is married, because right now is married is not defined up here when I call the function. So let's call it after I define it. So let's do it right down here at the bottom just to be safe. After I define everything else, show status is going to tell me whether I'm married or not. False. Okay, now false on its own doesn't tell us anything. So let's comment this out and we'll come back to it. But that is what we wanted to do. We wanted to tell us, am I married? False. So instead of here, show status alert, let's have it alert something more useful. So let's have alert, and let's say name is, so this is a string. It's just gonna put out whatever I put here, name is, and a space, and I'm gonna say plus a variable. Oh, I don't want a string for name. I want this variable name. So whoever this is, I want it to be that. And so to make it this variable, I'm gonna put something outside of the quotation mark. So alert name, and then I can have is here. And I need to add these. So that means whenever I'm adding a string, I'm putting the string next to it. So name, which is going to be Mr. Clark, plus is, so these are going to be next to each other. Mr. Clark is, and I'm going to put age, so I'm going to add age, and then I'm going to add another string, which is going to have a space and space. Okay, so it's going to say right here, the name is Mr. Clark. So name is age, so the number, and space, so 25, and all right. And now I'm going to add finally my status is married. Okay, plus status. All right, so this is a variable I haven't created yet, plus status. Now let me show you what happens. Let me just create status real quick. Status right here, var status equals, and let's set this equal to is married for now. Is married. So if we look up here, is married is false. If I change this to true, then this also changes to true. So status is going to be false. So let's see what it prints. So show status. Mr. Clark is 25 and false. Okay, that hurts, but let's fix that. All right, so Mr. Clark is 25, and so we want status to be either single or married. So the way we can do that is we can use an if statement. An if statement is going to just going to choose one, either single or married. All right, and we want that if to depend on this variable here, is married. So what we can do is we can say if is married, and is married is our variable. So if is married, all right, and so that's the code is going to take this and say, is this true, or if this is this false? So if this is true, it's going to run my code. So if is married, and you can just say in your head is true. If this is true, then status, let's just do return. Here, let's make this more simple. What I'm going to do is I'm going to not define status here. I'm going to define status with a function. So here I'm declaring status, var status. So we're telling the computer there's something called status. We'll deal with it later. We're going to define it later. So var status, and here I'm going to have a function. This function, for simplicity, I'm going to name it function set status. All right, and give it its little parentheses, and then it's opening brackets, and then let's take my code here and put it inside. I'm going to either indent that to show that it's inside of this function. All right, and indent here, there. So function set status. All right, I'm going to call this later, but first let's define it. So this function where I'm setting my status is going to be if is married is true, then status. So now I'm going to be defining this variable because I already declared it. Now I can use it in my function. Status equals, if this is true, then status equals the string married. Okay, so the string is what I want it to print, meaning it's what I want to show up. So if is married is true, status equals married. Now what happens if it's not true? Then I can say else. So it's like if this is true or else, right? Else, and you've used if else statements. Let's look at Avery here. It's just like right here. Here's an if else statement. If the number is greater than 0, so if it's positive, then do that code, else do this code. So that's the same thing I'm doing here, just with JavaScript. So, and it's not too complicated. Here we have a function, and if is married is true, then status equals married. Else status equals single. Okay, so here what we have is we have a function that is going to use an if statement to determine what status is. So if status is married equals true, then if is married, this variable is married is true, status is going to equal married. And if this variable is married is false, status is going to equal single. So if it's not true, that's what else means. If it's not this first condition, anything else, if it's anything else, do this. But because this is a Boolean, there's only two options, true or false. So now when we run this code, what do you think is going to happen? So let's take a look at our code. Show status, we have to set this first. So let's run this here. Before we alert anything, let's set status. All right, and just for safety, I'm going to take this function and I'm going to define it before I call it. Because if I call it before I even say what it is, it's going to say undefined. We don't know what that is. All right, so now I told the computer what this function is, and now I'm calling it here. And remember, I have my semicolon at the end to show that I'm done with this statement. So let me make this there easier to see. So now we have a function, show status, and we're calling it down. We're going to call it down here at the bottom. So show status is going to say set status. So set status is this function. If is married is true, the status equals married. So that's talking about these variables down here. So if this is true, then this is married. Else, if it's anything else, which in this case it's not, it's false, then this is going to be single. So if is married is true, status equals married, else status equals single. All right, so that's what's going to happen here. And then after that, it's going to alert my name. It's going to alert is, all right, so these right here, because I'm calling my function after these, then yeah, so it's going to be looking at this. So name is Mr. Clark, is just a string I want it to alert. Age 25, and is another string I want to add to it, and status. Status is going to be whatever show or set status determines it is. So let me show you what happens when I call this function. Show status. Mr. Clark is 25 and single. Okay, there. Now we have a full statement. So here, let me just finish that off with adding a period. Here, now we have proper grammar. Mr. Clark is 25 and single. Okay, so that is variables, functions, strings, numbers, Booleans. We even learned if statements, and we learned, what was the other one? Oh, we learned a repeat loop down here. Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna comment this out so that it doesn't keep reminding me. And arrays. So array is pretty easy, right? Array is just a collection of data. So you could think of it as a collection of variables because variables just store data, but it doesn't have to be. So let me show you an array really quickly. An array, here, I'll make one right here. Variables can also equal arrays. So let's have this variable, and the way that you, let's name it variable numbers, let's see. So let's have just some random numbers. Variable numbers. And the way that you do this, you set it equal to these square brackets. So numbers, let's have 4, and you separate the values, separate the data in this collection by a comma. 4, 7, 3, 2. All right, so that is a collection of numbers. So that's an array. That's all it is. And there's some cool stuff we can do with arrays. For example, here, let's see what happens right here. Let me do medium. Oh, I accidentally did hard. All right, here we go. Well, let's do medium for time. All right, let's see if I get this on the first try. Lower, 20, lower, 10, higher, 16, lower, 14. All right, so you can see here, this is an array. This is a collection of data. So it stored all of my numbers into an array. And all right, that was a little unnecessary, but you saw what just happened. It stored all of my numbers into an array. And so that's what this is. And then later I showed the array on the screen. Now, if I alert this array, alert numbers, then when it refreshes, I get my array here. All right, now I'm gonna do something cool with this. Let's have an array called or Mr. Clark. All right, so I have an array called Mr. Clark, and I'm gonna set it equal to everything about me. So let's have the square brackets. First, let's use some of these variables. Now, I'm not gonna put these in parentheses. Sorry, I'm not gonna put these in quotations because they're not gonna be strings. They're gonna be variables that I want to call these variables. So let's talk about my name, my age, is, oh, well, I don't want is married, I want my status, and numbers is going to be, okay, that's not a part of me, is smart. Is smart. Okay, that's just gonna say true. All right, but you get the idea. So now when I alert this array, let's see what I get. Let's create a function for this. Function equals, not an array. Function, let's call this stock. If you were stalking me, you would know all this stuff about me. Function stock, and let's define it as alert this array. All right, now here's something cool. Stock person, just to add a little flair. So stock a person. This is what I'm gonna stock, and you'll see me use that later. Alert, not a string, alert this here, this array. Alert Mr. Clark. And so what this is going to do is it's going to alert on the page. It's going to tell me all of this separated by commas. So now let's call this function here. And I put person in these parentheses. An example of that would be like, let's see, like right here where I defined walk. Walk I defined as right here. Here's my function, and in the parentheses, these are the parentheses. I put what I want to pass as a value here. So you'll see what I mean in a second. So stock a person. Let's call this function. Stock, and I need to put something in here. The person I'm gonna put is gonna be, oh, well, I already did it. Okay, so I wanted to say stock Mr. Clark. And now it stocks me. But status is not set. So let's take this function, stock Mr. Clark, and let's cut it. And status, where do I set status? Set status. Oh, I need to set status. All right. So let's undo that here. Stock Mr. Clark. First, I need to set status and then alert that. There, set status and then stock me. Hold on, set status. All right, something's not working here because it's not setting the status. My function set status is right here. If married, okay, set status. And let me just make sure I spelled it right here. First set status and then do this. I don't think this is gonna make a difference. Set status, alert, stock Mr. Clark. It's gonna set status, which is gonna do this function. If is married. All right, so this stuff is like all out of whack. I'm gonna put these up here. Sorry, usually I'm more organized when I'm coding. All right, and Mr. Clark is gonna go, here, let's maybe set status first. All right, there we go. So I'm setting my status before this variable here. All right, so now I have Mr. Clark, 25, single, true. What's true is smart. All right, so yeah. So that's a function. That's an example of a function that alerts an array. The array here is everything about me: my name, my age, my status, and if I'm smart. So let's call that function one more time just to boost up my ego after recklessly knocking it down all those times. So let's let the page refresh and then let it refresh again. Stock Mr. Clark, I'm 25, I'm single, and true, I am smart. All right, guys. So that was a little bit of an intro to JavaScript, some concepts that you need to know because we're going to use it all the time. And I hope that was entertaining and of value to you. Hopefully you were just constantly learning. If you have any questions, reach out to me. We'll be working with this a little bit more throughout the rest of the semester, or maybe the school year. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you later.